Nothing challenges our faithfulness and our loyalty like hard times. Nothing challenges your faithfulness and your loyalty like pain, suffering, and loss. Am I telling the truth? I mean, everybody is down and everybody's devoted and everybody's committed when times are good and winning comes easy and expectations are being met. It's not hard to find people who are committed during those times. But faithfulness is a part of our character that can't be seen, that can't be discerned, that can't be noticed until I don't really know what's going on. Faithfulness is a part of my character that can't really be seen until I don't know which way is up. And I'm not sure if God is for me or against me. That's when faithfulness can really be seen. It's the time when there's no obvious benefit in staying committed to God other than my faith alone. That's when you can really see faithfulness. It takes a special kind of person. It takes a special kind of church to stand together during times of pain and suffering and loss. But as we work through these verses today, we're going to find that God reserves a special kind of reward on this side of eternity and in the life to come for those that are faithful. People that are able to stand when things are challenging and when surrendering is the norm. Somebody just shout, just for Smyrna. Pick up with me in the book of Revelation, chapter 2, verse 8. And to the angel of the church in Smyrna, write, these things says the first and the last, who was dead and came to life. I know your works, tribulation, and poverty, but you are rich. And I know the blasphemy of those who say they are Jews and are not, but are a synagogue of Satan. Do not fear any of those things which you are about to suffer. Indeed, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison, that you may be tested. And you will have tribulation 10 days. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. He who overcomes shall not be hurt by the second death. The risen Jesus directed John to write letters to 7 churches. 7 in the Bible is the number for completion. 7 in the Bible is the number for perfection and fullness. In fact, the number 7 gets its root from 7 days that it took God to create everything. Smyrna was the second letter of these 7 messages that were delivered to the churches. And these were not the biggest churches. They were not necessarily all of the most popular churches. These were the churches that Jesus chose, the risen Savior, to write to, because in the fullness of the counsel given to them, we hear what God is saying to the churches in this hour now. It wasn't a letter just written for them in those times, but these words were prophetically eternal that Jesus wrote through John. Smyrna is located on the western coast of the Aegean Sea. It's considered the crown of Asia Minor. It's one of the most beautiful cities that exist in all of that region. But the city that is the most beautiful on the outside had an incredible problem, because the planners of the city, when they developed the city of Smyrna, they did not create an appropriate system to run the water off out of the city. When they created the city of Smyrna, not only did they not create a proper drainage system, but they didn't create a proper sewage system for Smyrna. So the city that was beautiful and picturesque with seaside views and landscapes perfect for postcards and weather that made it perfect to go to for vacation almost year round, when the flood and the rainy seasons came, it became a cesspool. When the floods and the rainy seasons came to Smyrna, it stunk to high heavens. It was a place that when the rain came, somebody say the rain came. When the rain came, it stunk, and there was stuff floating around that made you forget everything that was beautiful about Smyrna. Some of our lives are like that. We're good as long as it's raining. As long as it's sunny. We're good as long as the weather is perfect. We're good as long as it's the days where the birds are chirping, but let a cloud come out. Let a little bit of rain begin to fall, and what used to seem so beautiful about us starts to stink. What used to be so attractive about us starts to have stuff floating in it that you say, what is going on with that person? But God reserves something special for people that can stand the rain. I think it was New Edition that sang that song, but I'm not going to go there right now. A lot of love looks real good when things are good, but when things get difficult, that's when you really find out who's really devoted. I'm sure you heard the term fair weather friends. I think that word started in Smyrna. When the weather was good, everything was good in Smyrna, but when the weather got bad, it was one of the ugliest places that a person could live. This natural picture of Smyrna is a glimpse into the supernatural and spiritual truths about Smyrna. The natural is revealing something spiritual about Smyrna. In fact, in the natural, we see it's beautiful on clear days, but when it's cloudy, it's horrible. And when we look closely spiritually at Smyrna, Smyrna was flooded with pagan worship. Smyrna had twice as many temples as what we saw last week when we looked at Ephesus. Ephesus had a temple to the goddess Diana, but Smyrna, on almost every corner, like an inner city community, has storefront churches, had temples where they worship false gods all over Smyrna. And if their idolatry and their worship of these little gods wasn't enough, they were known for their emperor worship. Smyrna was a city that was unique in that it had an altar set up to Caesar, and it forced its citizens to buy incense and come burn incense on an altar that was set up to Caesar. They practiced pagan worship and emperor worship in Smyrna. If that wasn't bad enough, Smyrna was known to have a sect of Jews that hated followers of Jesus. When Jesus writes, he calls them a synagogue of Satan. They were known for turning Jesus followers into the Roman authorities so that they could be imprisoned, so that they could be tortured, so that they could be killed. And Jesus is writing to Smyrna right now and letting them know, you're getting ready to be persecuted. They're going to start arresting folks. Some folk are going to be thrown into jail, but it's only going to last for 10 days. Trouble is coming. It's getting ready to rain. And when it rains, that's when we find out who really is faithful. Somebody shout faithful. Faithful. No, y'all didn't shout it. You just said it. Somebody shout faithful. Faithful. Smyrna was beautiful when the weather was good. But Smyrna had a stench that you would not be around when trouble broke out. Run with me to verse 8 and 9 in the Revelation from John in chapter 2, and he writes, and to the angel of the church in Smyrna write, these things says the first and the last, who was dead and came to life. I know your works, tribulation and poverty, but you are rich. And I know the blasphemy of those who say they are Jews and are not, but are a synagogue of Satan. Write this down. Pain, get this in your phone, put this on your iPad, put this on your notebook. Write this down. Pain, suffering, and loss work to convince us no one really cares or knows what we're going through. Come on, catch this. You got to write this down. Pain, suffering, and loss work to convince us no one really cares or really knows what we're going through. The fact that pain, have you ever been in pain? You ever been going through and you felt like, why me? You ever been in pain and been going through and it seems like the whole world is happy and you're the only one that is hurting? It seems like even the people close to you, when you try to tell them what's going on, they really don't catch and understand what you're saying. And as the pain increases, as the suffering increases, as the sense of loss increases, you feel more isolated and more lonely. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Pain, suffering, and loss work to make us believe no one really knows or no one really cares. But I love what Jesus writes to the church that is in Smyrna at verse 9. He says, I know your works. I know your tribulation and poverty, and I know the blasphemy of those who say they are Jews and are not. In other words, Jesus saying, I know what you've been doing, the stuff that you've been pressing in and doing for me. I know the challenges that you've been going through. I know the lacks and the needs that you have. And when Jesus says he knows, and I know the folk that are trying to hurt your life, and I know the spirit that's working behind the folk that are trying to hurt your life. Although pain, suffering, and loss try to isolate us and make us think no one knows, Jesus himself is writing, I know. Some of us would assume he doesn't know because if he knows, he would do what I would do. Some of us assume he doesn't know because if he did know, he'd run and get me out of this circumstance or get me out of this situation. But since he's not coming to do what I would do, I'm assuming he doesn't know. But when Jesus says that he knows, what he is saying is, I see it from every side. I see facets of what you're experiencing that you don't even know and you haven't even considered. I see what this means to your future. I see where this worked from your past. I see what's going on. When Jesus says he knows, he's speaking from an eternal perspective. I'm the first and I'm the last. I'm the one that was dead and rose up. I can see angles that no one else can see. I know. When Jesus says that he knows, he's saying that I discern and understand with a depth that no one else knows. You can talk to your friends, you can talk to your spouse, you can talk to your girlfriend, you can talk to your homies, you can talk to a counselor, you can talk to a therapist, but none of them give you the response like I am planning to give you because I understand with a depth that no one else understands. I know. Pain, suffering, and loss work to convince me that no one knows and no one really cares. But Jesus is writing here, I know your works, I know your tribulation, I know your poverty, but you are rich. I know that synagogue of Satan that is working against you, trying to destroy your life. You feel like you're isolated, but I see you. I know you. I'm closer to you than your own breath. I'm aware of what's going down in your life right now. Somebody shout, he knows. But what he's also saying when he says that he knows, and I also am the first and the last. In other words, I'm the one that gets the first word in your life, and I get the last word in your life. I'm the one that has written this and made this a part of your story. I'm the one that knows how to take the pain, the suffering, and the loss and make it work together for your good. I know how to take what's happening in your life that you wonder, what did I do to deserve this? Why have I had to go through this for so long? And Jesus literally says, don't worry, I've got it all worked out. The present suffering is not worthy to be compared to the glory that shall be revealed in you and through your life. Just stay faithful. Somebody say, stay faithful. See, it works to make me think no one knows and no one sees because that sets the perfect stage for me to be unfaithful and just fix it myself. Since you don't see Jesus, and since you don't know, and since you're not going to do nothing about it, I'll just take care of it myself. I thought you were going to look out for me and be there for me, but since you're not, I got it. I don't even need to read my Bible today. I don't need to pray today. Don't y'all sing for me today. I got it now. How many of you ever gotten to the place where I got it now? And if we could go back and undo all of our ungot it's, I got it, we'd be a whole lot further along in the plan, because when we think we got it, in reality, he got us now. We have worked against ourselves when we think we got it. No, we don't got it. He got it. I know. Jesus said, I know. Somebody say, Jesus knows. Y'all didn't say it like you believed it. Say that as a prayer to yourself. Jesus knows. And the reality of it is, Jesus knows. He's faithful to us right now. Don't get me wrong. He's faithful to us right where we are. Right in the thoughts and the emotions and the attitudes and the circumstance that we're in. He's faithful to us where we are. But while we're busy trying to hold on, while we're busy trying to maintain, while we're busy trying to keep it all together, he literally many times is letting it fall apart. Because not only does he know the version of me today on August 18, 2019, but he also knows a version of me I never met. He also knows a version of me that has not been fully revealed to the world yet. So oftentimes the pain and the suffering and the loss causes me to have a deeper dependence on he who knows, while at the same time he is crucifying the one who part of me he wants to die, so that another part of me that I don't know yet can be resurrected. When we look back, we see so clearly, I'm so glad he didn't keep that together for me. I'm so glad he didn't let me stay there and make it all work out. I was praying prayers for him to make that all work out, but he let that fall apart. So because he saw what I can't see now. We need to comfort ourselves with that right now. He sees for me what I can't even see for myself right now. He sees a glory being revealed in me and through me that I can't see right now. And these are things that he does just for Smyrna. In the midst of all that was going on, there was a church in Smyrna, and Smyrna is one of only 2 churches that the letters were written to that there is no condemnation for this church at all. You don't hear a nevertheless, I have this against you in these verses. He had nothing against this church. This church was faithful even when it was going through a living hell. It stayed faithful because it believed that he sees and he knows and he discerns, and he's already worked it together for a good that I can't see yet. Somebody say he's faithful. Run with me to Revelation chapter 2 and verse 10. We're going to read verse 10a in Revelation chapter 2 and 10. Do not fear. Do not fear any of those things which you are about to suffer. I got to read that again. What? Do not fear any of those things which you are about to suffer. Indeed, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison, that you may be tested, and you will have tribulation for how long? At this point, I'm like folding the letter back up, and I don't even want to read any more of the letter. I'm like, that letter was for the church down the block. That wasn't for us. He literally is saying to them, don't fear any of the things you're about to suffer. I'm not going to stop them. You're going to suffer some things. Indeed, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison that you may be tested, and you will have tribulation. How many days? Write this down. Pain, suffering, and loss have a start and an end. I don't think you heard me. I'm going to read it again. Pain, suffering, and loss have a start and an end. The saints back in the day used to say it like this: trouble don't last, right? They were saying trouble don't last always. And right now, God is coming at that thought in our minds that when things are good, we're waiting for things to turn bad. I'm coming after that right now in the name of Jesus. That idea that when things are going well, I can't even enjoy when things are going well because I'm already anticipating that, well, what's coming around the corner. And Jesus doesn't deny that things could be coming around the corner, but he's teaching the church of Smyrna the same way he's teaching us right now. Stop focusing on the problem. I need you to learn to focus on the promise. Stop focusing on the problem. I need you to learn to start focusing on my promise. Troubles have an expiration date on them. I don't allow them to last always. I don't author them. I told you these are coming from Satan, but I use them and make them work together for my good. I said the number 7 in biblical numerology is the number for completion. It's the number for perfection. It's the number for God, actually. But the number 10 is the number for integration. The number 10 is the number for discipline. It's almost a picture of God weaving himself together with man. There were 10 commandments that God gave to Moses. He was weaving the divine together with the natural. And literally God was prophetically saying to them, you're going to get thrown into prison, some of y'all, and you're going to go through tribulation for 10 days. But what he was desiring for them to hear him saying was that I'm getting ready to intertwine more of myself with you. It's going to be 10, the number 10 days. And during that time, I'm going to create a deeper dependency on me and a deeper connection between us. We're going to have a harmony that we did not have before the day started. But I'm not going to let it last always. It's got a start and it's got an end. I'm the first and I'm the last. I'm he who was dead and was resurrected. I know about trouble. I know about suffering. I know about tribulation, but I also know about my love for you. I'm your Lord. And I will not allow the enemy to do anything that I don't override and make it work together for my good purposes and plans in your life. Every trial that I experience is God filtered. That brings confidence to me when I'm going through. I know what I'm going through. He put me in the ring because he wants me to work out with this challenge so that he can integrate some of his strength with me. If it were not for some of the challenges, you would not know some of the hidden strengths that were in you. If it were not for the troubles, you wouldn't know that you've got limits, but God has none. How else would I know that God is with me and he's for me and he's not against me unless I've been in some places and some spaces where I wonder, but now I know. After 10 days, we're going to come out integrated and harmonized and woven together that they can't even tell anymore where you end and I start and where you start and I begin. They can't tell because I'm going to weave us together as one. He was partly God and partly man, and I'm made in his image and after his likeness. God wants the devil not to know who's he's going to face when he bothers with Kevin Brown. Put your name in there. He pokes at me carefully because he has no idea what kind of strength might rise up out of me. They said, if he had known, he would not have crucified the Lord of glory. If Haman had known, he wouldn't have set those gallows up to hang the Jews, and then he hung on himself. Some of the stuff that Satan has set up on you now, God is already in the details. strengthening you, transforming you, readying you, building greater dependence in you so that when you get out of this prison that you're in for this moment. See, faithfulness produces a strength that can't be manifested any other way. You can have all kinds of things built into your character, but if your character does not have faithfulness built into it, then you're like the rainy days where the sewage just stays on the top. God is building a supernatural runoff system in our lives right now. He's building a supernatural drainage system in our lives right now so that trouble don't float to the top on me. Trouble floats out of my life. I've learned to hold on to the promises and not magnify the problems. In fact, when the problems come, my spirit is trained to bring up a promise. I make up a song on the promise. I make up a hip hop. I got 16 bars about the promise. Because I'm promise filled. I'm promise protected. I'm promise shepherded. We're so worried about problems coming because we don't know how powerful the promises are. We're so stuck in the challenges because we don't know how strong our champion is. He's not afraid for stuff to happen to us, his kids, because he knows what he put in us. Somebody say, trouble does not last, but the promises do. (10b), be faithful. I'm going to say it again. Be faithful. Let's say it together. Be faithful. Let's say it so our neighbor hears us. Be faithful. Let's speak it into our own spirit. Be faithful. Let's make every devil in hell hear it. Be faithful until death. And I will give you the crown of life. Be faithful until, and I will give you the crown of, write this down. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. Write this down. There are certain rewards. Write it down. There are certain rewards in this life and the next that can only be accessed by faithfulness to God. Let's say it again. There's certain rewards in this life and the next that can only be accessed by faithfulness to God. For some of us that came up and had prayer requests at the altar, for some of us that will have prayer requests today that people will pray with us in cell group, but some of us, people will pray for you, they will lay hands on you, they will anoint you, they will prophesy to you, they will give you scriptures to memorize, but the fruit that you're looking for is not simply on the other side of their prayer or on the other side of them anointing you, on the other side of them prophesying over you or standing in agreement with you. Some of the rewards that we long for and that God wants to give us are only on the other side of faithfulness. Smyrna gets its name from the word myrrh. M-Y-R-R-H. Smyrna is a derivative of the word myrrh. Myrrh is a gummy type resin that was found in thorny trees that could be found in Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. And if you broke off a branch of one of these trees, you could get this gummy type of resin out, and if you dried this gummy type of resin out, then that myrrh was good for perfumes. that dried part of that resin, that myrrh, became good for the base of incense. And that myrrh also had a medicinal value, that it actually helped to work as a sedative and a numbing agent. Smyrna is really the word myrrh. In this stinking, waste-filled, demon-filled, pagan-worshiping, and emperor-filled city, God wraps it in a church that he calls myrrh. Myrrh is a resin and a gum that when I dry it, it gives off a smell that is good for perfumes. When you dry it, it gives off a element that is good for making incense. In fact, when Jesus was on the cross, because it has medicinal value, as he was being crucified, they offered him a potion, if you will, of wine mingled with myrrh. They offered the crucified Jesus. In the process of dying, they offered him a sedative that was made with wine and myrrh, but Jesus rejected it at that time. Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea, my scriptures tell me that they went and brought 100 pounds of a mixture that was made with aloe and myrrh, and they wrapped Jesus' body in linens that had aloe and myrrh on it, so that the scent of death would be covered up by the scent that comes from this element being dried out. God needs our faithfulness, because sometimes he has to dry our hopes up. God needs our faithfulness, because sometimes he has to suck all the hopes out of us and dry us out, so that our faithfulness can produce a fragrance. So that our faithfulness can become an agent that helps to numb the pain that this world is feeling, so that our faithfulness, as people look on to us, while we feel like we're losing hope, it is giving them hope. You look like you're poor, but you're rich. I'm bringing a quality out of you that you did not know was in you, while you're going through and everybody else is losing their mind and leaving their spouses and leaving their jobs. I'm using your faithfulness to produce a fragrance in this stinking dark place. While it feels like you're losing hope, I'm using you to give hope. Be faithful unto death, and I myself will give you the crown of life. There are attributes and qualities that are hidden in us that only can be brought out through our faithfulness to God. Somebody shout, be faithful. Be faithful. We're the myrrh. We're the myrrh. We are the myrrh. In order for us to be the myrrh, we got to get dried out sometimes. In order to be the myrrh, we got to get crushed sometimes. You have to crush it to bring it out. But don't worry, he who is the first and the last, and he who is the resurrection, is with us. Sometimes we got to go through what looks like hopelessness in order for us to be the hope of the world. I titled today, Just for Smyrna, though, because it's not only what we bring to the world and to others and what ultimately comes out of us, but a scent gets produced by our faithfulness that Jesus can't stay away from. I got to get Angela some more of that perfume, but she had this perfume that she wore. It was the one in that blue bottle. I can't even remember the name of it. You got to remind me when we leave here. But when she wore that perfume, I couldn't stay away from her. Not even going into the details about it, but the scent of it did something to me that made everything else quiet down and that get loud. And Jesus is saying that there's a scent that comes off of a faithful follower. There's a scent that comes off of a church that is faithful to him during times of loss, during times of persecution, during times of tribulation, that he just can't stay away from her. When he smells that sin, he's got to come. And the thing about Jesus, when Jesus comes, he never comes empty-handed. When Jesus comes, he always comes with deliverance. When Jesus comes, he always comes with blessing. When Jesus comes, he always comes with reward. When Jesus comes, just his shadow heals people. Where you think Peter got it from? When Jesus, he who is life and he who is the resurrection comes, he always brings life. But it's not even just talking about that. Yeah, he's going to make a scent come over us that makes us hope to the world. He's going to make a scent come over us that draws us to him. But on the other side of eternity, this verse is not talking about if you're not faithful, you're going to lose your salvation. Some preach it wrong. Our salvation is firmly secured, if we ever had it, by the works of Jesus, not by our works. Our salvation is firmly secured in the resurrection of Jesus, not in us resurrecting out of troubles. Our faith in Jesus is firmly secured. But he's talking about, but there are rewards for those who are faithful, for those who are overcomers. I remember when I graduated high school, I didn't get any rewards. But you couldn't take my graduation from me. I did the work. But I didn't get valedictorian, I didn't get salutatorian, I didn't even get come on through-atorian, I didn't get nothing. But I remember when I sat there, I said, I'll be darned if I go through the work again and not work as hard as I can, so that when I come through, I'm also going to get some rewards. See, he's not going to take your salvation, but some of us are going to get basic uniforms. We're going to get the I Made It uniform. And hey, the I Made It uniform is incredible. I'm happy with that. It's better than the other choice. But why don't we just be faithful on top of just getting the basic, so they can put some stripes on their joint and put a little bronze something on my chest. Like, I want to come through and get dapped up when I come through, like bop, bop, bop. Yeah, like, yeah, he was faithful. She was faithful. When all hell broke loose, they stood strong. They stayed consistent. They kept showing up. They kept pressing through. While everybody else had an excuse, they had a promise. When everybody else's testimony started stinking, theirs still smelled fresh and wintergreen. I wanted them around me. He does some stuff just for Smyrna, just for the faithfulness that produces a scent of myrrh. And he wants to take faithful churches like ours and wrap us around some places that are broken, wrap us around some people that are broken, wrap us around some economic systems that are upside down, wrap us around some misogynistic and imperialistic and colonizing type places, and use us to bring about a sweet change. But if every time we get bruised a little bit, we become unfaithful, we just know better than that broken aqueduct system and know better than that broken sewage system in Smyrna. But I can stand the rain. Come on, say that with me, but I can stand the rain. Are you ready to live this? Oh, really, are you ready to live this? Are you ready to live this?